another wonderful WrestleRoni for me and for you. I'm excited. This is a big one. Y'all been hearing the rumors. I've been putting it out there on Facebook. What is going on? Only Derek Stowers and myself knows what's going on. One of the owners of Pro Wrestling Conquest, Derek Stowers. How we feeling, buddy?
Hey, what's up, Spooky Lou? Glad to get with you, man. I've been wanting to talk wrestling for a long time.
No doubt. Well, you're in the right place. You're on the Roni. We're going to talk some wrestling.
Let's do it.
No doubt, man. You're killing it up in Charleston. I love what you guys are doing. A lot of great things. Got a great show coming up. Man, how we feeling right now today in life?
Feeling great, man. We've got the Scorched Earth coming up on March 8th, which is a really cool name, but it's kind of bit me a few times budget-wise because every time I'm like, can we afford this guy? I'm like, Scorched Earth. We're going Scorched Earth on this one, then I book them. So Scorched Earth is a good name, but it could be called Over Budget.
God bless you, man. I'm 2 shows deep. I can only imagine with the names you're bringing in. It scares me just to look at it. But man, those names, it's had my attention. I've watched you guys for a while, a lot of folks. So here in West Virginia, I've always heard it doesn't pay to bring in names. West Virginia fans don't know Danhausen or Matthew Justice. What's your side of the argument to that?
You know, there's some truth to that, and that's not to put down any of those guys. A lot of these guys we bring in are national and international known names, and Charleston seems to sometimes be behind on some of that stuff. Mm-hmm. But we don't book people just because we think they're going to bring a huge crowd. We book them because we know that they can give our crowd moments. So they got over in other places, and just because they're not well known here or over here, we know that they can be, and we know that they'll get us over. A lot of our crowd hasn't seen these guys, but when they do see them, that's only good for us, and it gives them new fans too.
Exactly. And my argument, to side with you on this, is then they can work with some of our local guys. Iron sharpens iron, and you know, it's a learning opportunity for a lot of up and coming talent in the area.
You're exactly right. I love the idea of some of these guys who are here killing it, you know, getting in the ring, or even if they're not in the ring, just meeting these guys in the back, and you know, maybe that gives them a little more comfortability with getting on the road and getting on some shows, and maybe that gives some of those bigger names a name to remember at these other promotions. Like, you know, X, Y, and Z is a great talent out of West Virginia. He'd be good on your show. Things like that.
And that's something I preach on the podcast all the time. West Virginia's loaded right now. It's, in my opinion, never been better. We have so much talent here, Pittsburgh. Tell the folks just some of the local talent that you're bringing into Conquest.
Well, we've got Troy Parker, who I'm really excited about, who's on fire. He's a big guy. As you know, he's 6'3". He probably goes, he's got to be 260 or 270. He's athletic as anybody you've ever seen in wrestling. And he's already making shots up at CZW in New Jersey, and I know he's been down to Kentucky and several other places. Troy is a big star, and Troy will be a big star. Here he already is, but he'll be bigger on a bigger scale very soon. He's getting some good opportunities, and he's doing great things with it. I saw he did a Paradigm Pro show, and I read that he got a standing ovation at the end of his match.
Nice.
And that was that crazy show. It was like 25 matches or something.
Yeah.
I don't know where he was at on that card, but if you're on a show with 25 matches and you get a standing ovation, you've just put out something really good.
No doubt, because that's insanity.
Yeah, crazy. And Micah, I know you're familiar with her. You've had her on a few times. Mm-hmm. Micah is everywhere, and she's just getting better every time. You know, every time she steps in the ring, she's getting better, and she's making a big name for herself. We're excited to spotlight her. We haven't even officially announced Micah, but Micah will be at Conquest on March 8th. She's taking on Megan Myers. Ooh. I don't know if you're familiar with her, but Megan's been around for a while. She's out of Cleveland, Ohio, but she's just spent, I'm just guessing here, 1.5 or 2 years at the Nightmare Factory with QT and Cody Rhodes, training under them.
I appreciate the scoop, and I'll take your scoop and I'll match it. I'll let you know that she's returning to RSW, Fairmont State, to take on Jason the Gift Kincaid.
Micah,
Yeah,
Oh, okay, awesome.
yeah, right
Yeah, I've heard
around.
that those two have been putting on some bangers.
Yeah, they have everywhere, man. I'm excited to see this one.
And another local guy that people should be taking a hard look at, Bishop Baylor. Are you familiar with him?
Yeah, thank you. Go ahead. Let's sing his praises for a minute.
Dude, Bishop loves wrestling. He he's such a hard worker in everything he does. He's already a successful businessman in Charleston, but he's becoming a successful professional wrestler. His his promos is what you really want to dig into, and he's great in the ring. He's got a cool look. He's a big guy. He's tatted up. He's got a cool look, good gear. But he's doing some really special stuff with his promos. That is, I don't want to say he's outshining people, but he's just outshining everybody with his promos. They're beautifully edited. They're some really cool like cinematography in those, and Bishop Baylor's doing some next level stuff, and it's not going to take much longer for people to start noticing him.
Yep. And the promos are great. The in ring work's great. But yeah, back to the promos and the way he's cutting them. Yeah, that extra work goes a mile in a fan's eyes, in my eyes at least.
Yeah, he's doing really good stuff in the ring, but a lot of guys are. The difference between him and the other guys who are doing good stuff is, when you're promoting a show, and I know you know this because you've been promoting now, you need content. You need to constantly be feeding social media.
Yep.
And Bishop Baylor is putting out promos, and they're not just, a guy sitting in the front seat of their car. He's putting out really good, well thought out stuff that he's putting time into that gets himself over, gets his opponent over, gets the match over, and the event over. So he's doing some really special stuff.
Exactly. You mentioned social media. You gave me the segue I needed. Let me pick your brain on this. Ask your honest opinion. You've been in the business some years now. I'm sure you've seen it happen. Let's talk about relationships in wrestling. And I'm not talking about with your fella man. I'm talking about, can I bring my girlfriend to a show? Is she going to be screwing around on me while I'm working a match? Can I trust the boys? Can there be relationships in wrestling? What do you do to a wrestler if he messes with another wrestler's girlfriend? Where do you stand on this?
Well, lucky for us, we've never ran into anything even close to that or similar to that at all.
Good.
We love it when people bring their wives or girlfriends or children to our shows because that means that they're proud enough of what they're doing with us for their family to watch them. Not every show's a great show, and I don't mean with us, but I just mean anywhere else. Not every show that a lot of guys are working are great shows, and there's probably some shows that these guys work that they would prefer nobody to even see them on.
Right.
Uh, so we're excited when people bring family or significant others to our shows, and we've never ran into any sort of issue like that. For me, that's kind of whatever happens personally is not my business, but at the same time, if it's something that did touch business, if it disrupted our locker room, whoever we felt was in the wrong, and typically with things like that, it's pretty obvious who's in the wrong, but whoever's in the wrong would just not be welcomed back.
There you go. There you go. Let me ask you this: what if the person did it, got punished, took a whooping in the ring for it, got his head beat in, and then a year or so later he did it again to a different person? They're not coming back.
No,
No. Yeah, this
no,
person's not coming back either.
no, that person's not coming back, and I'm not even. I'm not familiar exactly with what you're talking about, but just speaking broadly,
Hmm.
that person wouldn't be welcome. Like I said, we've always been really lucky. There's enough headaches in wrestling to not have to worry about boyfriend, girlfriend, silly stuff. If there's somebody that's causing an issue, regardless of how talented they are or how many tickets they sell, we want to be a fun place to work.
Good,
We
good,
want to be a place where people are excited to come work and work hard, and where people are excited to promote.
good. Now, I don't want to get you too far off track. It's just some current affairs going on here, and I had to ask your opinion on it. Had to get it out on the podcast. We like to document these things. After we're done
Sure.
recording, I'll give you some names so that way you know who to look out for. How about that?
Well, I've seen some Facebook stuff from up in your neck of the woods, and I sort of wondered what was going on, but I don't have a ton of people to reach out to on stuff like that, and or a ton of time to do it, so I wasn't sure.
I got you. Well, I'll tell you, if you're curious or the audience is curious, if you look at those posts, there's some names. There's a name mentioned. So
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you're curious or the audience is, get on the old Facebook and do some digging. You'll find out, and you'll say, "Oh my." Fair enough. Fair enough. Let's talk about good things, some great things. You got a scorched earth coming up. Me and you's been discussing it. Here's the breaking news, folks have been waiting on. You reached out to me. God bless you. I thank you. In a perfect world, Spooky Lou will be there at Scorched Earth to film the footage, put it on the channel for all to see. That's on me, though. I've got to get the ride there. Everything else has been arranged. We just got to find Spooky Lou, dependable ride. So if something crazy happens and it doesn't happen, that's on me. That rests on Spooky Lou's shoulders. But first off, thank you for thinking of me. I promise I'll give you 110%. What can folks look forward to as long as this all pans out and I make it up there? What do you think, folks on WrestleRoni subscribers? What can they look forward to when this footage hits?
Well, as far as having you there, and you thanked me, you don't have to thank me. I'm not doing it, out of charity or to be nice. I've been seeing what you've been doing with the WrestleRoni channel. I know you're pushing really hard. I get on the channel and I see how much you're posting, and I see the numbers that you're doing. So, I'm cool. I'm excited to get another cool guy on board as part of our team. Um, Somebody who's a hard worker, as we can tell that you are. So, I mean, it's not, we're not just trying to, do you a solid or whatever. You deserve it. And not only do you deserve it, we're excited to have you. It makes it, I think it's going to make us better.
Hell yeah. Well, it's appreciated. I don't want to say thank you again, but thank you. It is appreciated,
So
and
thank
I'll
you.
be up there.
Awesome.
Let's let the folks know a little bit about Pro Wrestling Conquest. How did it all come together?
So it's 2018. I had just left the car business for the first time.
Uh oh.
I've since been back, but that's another thing, sort of like wrestling, it gets in your blood. It's hard to leave and stay away. But it comes with a demanding schedule, and I had left that career and I had started with another career with Vic Victory. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him. He's our ring announcer and my partner. He trained with Violent Vance, actually. I know you know Vance well.
Yeah.
He's one of Vance's kids.
Okay.
Uh, we've known each other since grade school, and we took a job together, an outside sales job, and we spent a lot of time in the car together. I was much more in control of my own schedule, and I just thought, like I want to do something for me. I know how to sell, I know how to promote, or at least I thought I did. I didn't, but at the time, I really thought I did. I was like, man, let's run a show, even if it's only ever just one. That's something I've always wanted to do, and now's the time to do it. And again, even if it's only just one, let's do it. Let's give it everything we got. Let's go, balls to the wall on this thing, and just see where we land. And we dove in and did it.
And here you are. Here you are, man.
Here we are, man. Oh goodness.
And that's crazy. You mentioned the car business. I know a thing or two about the. Now I couldn't tell you a thing or two about a car. I couldn't start to. But my dad has always been a car salesman. He had a car lot. Yeah. So I see where you say the salesman part and everything, but wrestling's a whole different deal, isn't it?
It's completely different, and I didn't know anything. And if I could give anybody advice, and it's too late for you, but if I could give anybody advice who wants to run a show or wants to start their own company, it's just don't.
It's so rewarding, though, man.
It is, but it's just, especially at the time, I had been a fan since I was 3 years old,
Mhm.
and I thought I knew everything. And I knew a lot of the history and the trivia and things like that, but it's a whole different ball of wax when you start putting on your own stuff.
That's true. Oh, believe me, I've had the headaches, but I tell you, I've the podcast is one thing, but until I see it live in the flesh, those reactions, those smiles on faces, and to know I had just the tiniest part of putting that together, that's as good as it gets in my book.
Well, that is special. There's no high in the world like after a great event.
Yeah, yeah. What's the highlights so far?
We've had a lot of great highlights. The first show was not a highlight. We had a heck of a time getting everything put together. We only had two guys there setting up. It was me, well, three counting me, but I was on the road that day. I had to, we booked Swoggle for that first event.
Hmm.
There were no flights into Charleston. I had to drive to, I believe it was Cincinnati to get him from the airport. That left my partner Victor and one other guy to set up a ring. The building that we were in was not heated or air conditioned, and we didn't know that until the day of the show. This is
Mm-hmm.
in August. So two guys setting up a ring in 100 and probably 20-degree temperatures. We ran, when we announced the date, we didn't know that we were running against Gary Dameron, which of course is a kiss of death in West Virginia.
Uh-oh.
I mean, I didn't book it right. That's on me. And we came out of it with a pretty bad taste in our mouth. And then I said to myself, we've done it once. We can say we did it. We'll never do it again. But then you get down the road and you're thinking, well, I could have done this different. I could have done this better. What if we did this way? And that's what led to the second show and the third and fourth. And here we are almost 6 years later.
What was it that? How long was it until you decided we're doing another one?
It was 8 months between the first one and the second one.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. And man, I can relate to the heating and air conditioning because believe me, at school there was no heating. You could see people's breath in the video, but the ring was already set up. We have a whole trainee class to help us. I had Tim, the owner of RSW, there on hand if I needed him. I can't imagine running a show, with two guys setting up the ring and waiting on all these guys to come in. How hectic
Well,
was that day?
I almost feel guilty because I didn't even mention Tim. Tim, we wouldn't be here if not for Tim. So promoting that show, we were 10 days out from our first date, and we were running at a place in Charleston. It was a new concert venue. And it was a new cool place. They were booking all these big punk rock bands and metal bands, and we were going to be their first professional wrestling show. 10 days out, the health department, or not the health department, gosh, I can't remember what department it was, but they came in and they got shut down.
Mm.
So two guys I didn't even know, Michael Tawney and Tim Cross, reached out, and they said, we're going to get you a building. And I'd never even met these guys, and I was really leery. Why do these guys want to help? What do they want? Like, I know they want something or they wouldn't be helping. And they got me in Quantum. Tim had ran there before. Tawny knew some guys that were working there. And they got us in Quantum 10 days out from the event. And like I said, it's 5.5 years ago. Neither one of them have asked for anything since. They were really doing that just to help wrestling in that area. So,
wow. And you don't get a
neither
whole
one of
lot of
them.
that around here,
Yep, neither one of them have ever, like I said, I was like, they got to want something. They've never asked for anything, but if they ever do, I owe both of those guys a big favor.
Yeah, because, to the audience not in the area, it's pretty competitive. Whenever we started up EIW, all the posts I was seeing, like West Virginia needs another alphabet soup and all this crap. There
Yeah,
was some hate from people. I had no clue who they were. There's
yep,
people that want to shut you down, believe me.
no question. Yep, but those guys, like I said, I didn't even know Quantum existed. I don't think it had been around forever, and I didn't even know they were there. But Tim had ran there, like, I'm not sure how much longer before we did, but Tim and Michael Tawney, who ran IWA East Coast, they called me and they said, I know you lost your building. We're going to get you a building. And they got it.
I love the good stories. I love showcasing the good. Tim, somebody's on here. Another person's on here talking good about you. So, heck
Yeah.
yeah. Love to hear it.
Tim's gotten us our belts.
Oh, he knows a guy, don't he?
Yeah, he knows the guy. He hooked
Hmm.
us up with our belt maker. Tim's been good to us.
Good, good. I like to hear it. Now, were you attending shows here in West Virginia locally before you started up?
The only India that I'd been to here was Gary's show. I
Okay.
live like a mile from the Madison Civic Center where Gary runs, and I'd been to Gary's shows. And I'd been to Remix up in Marietta, but I hadn't done a ton of indies. I
Well,
hadn't discovered them long before I got into it, and discovering Gary is what made me want to do it.
really? What did you see at Gary's show that kind of inspired you?
So I went on a New Year's Day. I want to say it was 2016, but I could be wrong. And of course, I'd been out partying pretty hard the night before, and I'd been seeing flyers up. And he'd ran here for a long time before I went, and I don't know why I didn't go, but that just shows how hard it is to grab a wrestling fan. I've been watching all my life, and they were having shows in Madison, and I hadn't been to one.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm sitting at home on a hangover, and I hit up my buddy. I'm like, hey, man, Abyss is going to be at the Madison Civic Center. Would you want to go watch tonight? He's like, yeah, let's go. So we kind of limp in on a hangover. And on the way there, I remember he said, "Do you think this is going to be fun?" And I said, "I have no idea." And he said, he's like, "Man, just," he's like, "Do you think the crowd's just going to be so cynical? Like, do you think people are even going to like cheer for anything or boo for anything?" I don't know what to expect. And we got there, and that crowd was hot for everything. The easiest, simplest stuff. They were booing the bad guys and cheering the good guys, and just it was so cool to be there. That crowd was wild just for everything, and I was just completely blown away.
Heck yeah. And one thing you said that I have to agree with, I was in this neck of the woods. I was seeing flyers for RSW. I was seeing names on those flyers. Oh man, I'd like to go see Fred Yehi. And my lazy butt just never went. So
Yeah,
I don't have a good excuse either.
yeah, and I can remember being in high school and hearing, like, I ran into a buddy. I was like, "Hey man, what you doing now?" He's like, "I just came from a hardcore show in Charleston. Gold Dust was there," and he was talking about an East Coast show.
Hmm.
And I didn't follow up with any questions. I said, "Oh man, that's cool." And like, I would love to go back in time and go to those old East Coast shows. You look at, they're on IWTV now, or at least they were. I'm not sure if they still are, but I bet they are. You look at those, and everybody came through there. I mean,
Yep.
John Moxley, Eddie Kingston. They had Tracy Smothers was a regular, Chris Hero. I mean, I'm leaving so many guys out, but
Rey Mysterio
everybody,
and Jerry Lynn, I remember on a show.
yeah, everybody came through East Coast, and I never even thought about going to one of those shows. Which, that's on me, but again, it just shows you how hard you have to work to get in front of people.
Yeah, that's the truth. That's the truth. How important has social media been to the product and bringing fans in?
Social media is our bread and butter, beyond a doubt. I mean, we do all the stuff. We go to businesses and try and drum up interest. We hang flyers. We've done radio, but nothing comes close to social media, and that's essentially free. I mean, you can put a little bit of money behind a post to boost it a little, but the biggest thing is word of mouth, and that's where you can tell your stories, because as an indie promotion, we don't have a weekly TV to get people invested.
Right.
We have to tell our stories, and going into these shows, we have to tell these people, why these guys are awesome and why they're wrestling and what happens, for the winner, or what can the loser expect to happen. That's where we tell our stories, and that's how we make people care, is through our social media.
I dig it. I dig it, and you're doing a fine job, man. Let's talk about you started in 2018, so right in the middle, we got the pandemic, screwed up everything for everybody. What kind of effect did it have on you guys? How did you manage to bounce back? What can you tell me about 2020?
Well, 2020 was tough. That would have been so we did the first show, and like I said, we took some time off, and then we went on a pretty good run. I think we did 4 shows after that before the world shut down. And going, it was on a Friday the 13th in March. That was the name of the show because it's easy, Friday the 13th. And on the 12th is when I remember I was at work and I heard that during halftime of the high school basketball state tournament, they sent everybody home.
Oh,
And we've been hearing a little bit of stuff on the news about the coronavirus, in different countries. And then you heard that it was here. And that's just kind of background noise. You don't pay a ton of attention to it. And then, like I said, they sent everybody home from the Charleston Civic Center. Like, what is going on? And then news started, traveling. They're going to shut everything down. And we had a show. It was the very next day. It was the Friday the 13th show. So in our DMs, we're getting people, "Do you still have tickets available?" And the next message is, "Can I get refunds on my tickets?"
mm,
And there wasn't anything put down that we had to cancel. But at the same time, we didn't know, we could get shut down at any second by the state.
uh huh.
So that was a really tough decision. And we thought keeping in mind safety of the fans and the performers could never be the wrong decision. So we did shut down. Looking back on it now, I think we could have got through with that show. And we had some really cool stuff put together. I'm almost sure we could have gotten through it fine. But at the time, we didn't know what we were looking at with this pandemic. and we, with the fan safety and performer safety both in mind, we decided to stop that one. And so it was, gosh, I guess it was probably a year before we were able to run again. And during that time, we tried to run. We had an outdoor show booked,
Mm-hmm.
um, and once the city then it came out that you could do outdoor events. So we booked an outdoor event because we were just itching to put some wrestling out there. And we started doing really well with it. And we were on a piece of property owned by the city of Charleston, and they pulled it and
Mm.
canceled another event. So that was a really tough time to get through. We were thinking about doing things like iPay-per-views and just like the bigger companies were, running without fans and things like that. We never got there. Looking back on it now, I'm glad we didn't. I don't think it would have done well, but we never stopped wanting to put a product out.
Yeah, there you go. So, when did things finally come together? Tell me about that first official show back.
Oh gosh, I'm not even sure. I'm not positive which one it was.
I know how they can all mix together.
But when we came back, and I don't think I'm telling too much, I don't think it'll get anybody in trouble. When we came back at Quantum, it was actually the owner of Quantum who said, I'm not real sure, because that's when guidelines were really kind of blurry.
Mm-hmm.
And they were really blurry when we booked that outdoor show. But the owner of Quantum said, here's what we'll do. We'll put some tables out. Dinner theater is legal right now, but sporting events are not, or something like that. I can't remember exactly what it was, but there was some sort of necessity to put tables out, and we could call it dinner theater.
Hey.
And we did that, and we still have the tables to this day.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we still have tabled seating. A lot of people prefer that over just the regular chair seating.
I like
That,
it.
that's a big part of our shows that's really different from anybody else's. We have tabled seating, so you can bring a group of 6 or 8 people, and our venue has great concessions, and we sell cold beer, and people love just being able to sit at a table and just chill with their buddies and watch wrestling.
Yeah, it's a different atmosphere. I like it.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Well, we're going down that path. Give me a few other examples to kind of what separates you from the rest of the pack. What makes you different?
Well, one big thing that we try to be different, especially locally, uh, and we've already talked a little bit about it. We try to spotlight guys who are, doing big things throughout the country. So I really enjoy going to these other shows and meeting the guys who used to be on TV.
Mm-hmm.
But, but what we try to do, we try to show you the guys who are going to be on TV.
Right.
And there's nothing cooler, and it's happened a lot of times already, than being in my living room and my little boy see a guy that he knows, like from Conquest, that he's met and shaking hands with and taking pictures with, and seeing him on TV.
Yeah.
And it's not just because he's my kid. I'm not bringing him backstage and meeting these guys. Like, he meets them at their gimmick tables like everybody else can.
Mm-hmm.
And then he sees them show up on TV, and the smile on that kid's face, because he's 6 years old now, and he's been around this for several years. He looks at these guys like he knows them, like he talks to me about them all the time. And then to see him show up on his TV screen, he loves it. And me, I'm not a kid. I'm 36 years old, but when I see him show up on my TV, I love it.
For sure. For sure, because I mean, wrestling dominates the majority of my entertainment I've watched. These guys are the Hollywood stars to me. Not only am I happy to see that guy on TV, but I'm happy for the guy that he's on TV.
Right.
Nothing beats that feeling.
Absolutely. Yep. Same thing. And so that's why we try to bring in, and if nobody was bringing in the legends, if somebody else was already doing what we're doing, maybe I would do the opposite. Maybe I would try to bring in the legends, but I don't want to try to do what somebody else is already doing. Because if they've been doing it for a long time, I may not be able to do it as well. So where is the void here in Charleston? What is Charleston not getting? Well, Charleston's not getting the next guys. Charleston's not getting the Mance Warners and the Matthew Justices and the Shane Mercers and Calvin Tankmans. Like, they don't, they're not coming here.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we want to bring that here, and it is a different atmosphere. It's faster paced, and we don't do just all hard hitting and hardcore. We do a lot of comedy too. We try to make it a buffet. If we try to have something that everyone will like.
Yeah. And I mean, you can look at the scorched earth card, and I mean, the proof's right there in the pudding. You talk about comedy. Jack Vaughn against Casey King. What do you think folks can expect from this one?
I don't know. That'll be fantastic. Casey's coming back after a year off. He retired and has gotten a clean bill of health to come back. So we've Jack Vaughn, somebody who's been making a lot of noise on social media. Goes back to social media. That's where our bread and butter is. He's been making a lot of noise there. Um, I won't have to give those guys a ton of direction. They're both pros. They're both great. So what they come up with, I'm not sure. I'm sure it's above what I would be able to come up with on my own. So, um, I'll be seeing it just as you guys will for the first time.
Yeah, whenever that graphic came out, I said that's gold. That is money. That's. I mean, you can't go wrong. I guarantee it.
Yep, I agree. I expect it to be great.
And the main event's just silly, just crazy. TME and SGC, right?
Yeah, yep. That's the first time ever matchup, and TME, I just think are so far past due from going to TV.
Yeah,
They they've got everything. They've got the look. They've got the work. I mean, they're both jacked. They're both huge. They've got a great. I don't want to call it a gimmick because that's just who they are. But but they're the total package, and I'm such big fans of both of those guys. And Mance and Justice, they're kind of like what we were talking about earlier, booking guys that'll give you moments. The
hmm
first time we had Mance, not everybody knew him. The whole country knew Mance, but Charleston didn't.
yeah. West Virginia's different.
And he wasn't necessarily a draw then, which people did. There were some people that bought tickets for him, but those are probably people that would have bought tickets anyway. Like the hardcore wrestling fans, they were excited, but they were probably coming anyway.
Right.
But once everybody else saw him, and oh my God, when they saw Matthew Justice, that guy's insane. Now they are draws. Now people are pumped when we announce them, and they're not watching them on GCW and Circle Six and MLW. They just know them from Conquest.
Right.
They're Conquest guys to a lot of our fans, but they know that those guys are going to tear that place up, and it's going to be really fun watching them.
And that's just that's so wild to me because I'm such a wrestling dork. I'm watching it all. Of course, I know Mance Warner and Matthew Justice, but to get these local fans, I mean, of course, there's got to be some others like me and you that's on the internet watching MLW, GCW, but to bring these fans in to show them what's going on the indies, I think you should be praised for the talent you're bringing in. For the folks that don't know, let's do some name dropping. As petty as it is, I know Danhausen. Let's drop a few more names that's come through through the promotion.
We've had Danhausen, who was huge business for us, and that was a really unique experience because we got Danhausen right, not right as he was blown up, but he had already blown up. But it happened so fast that even he didn't know yet.
Mm-hmm.
I can remember picking him up from the airport and him being like, "I brought 18 wrestling buddies. I hope I can sell
Okay.
them." Like, and then I dropped him off at the hotel, and I had the room. They were like adjoining rooms. I was in the next room, and I was just kind of chilling before I had to go over and set up. And then it came out that Danhausen was on the Jericho podcast. So then I'm sitting there and I've got the podcast turned on. And I was like, oh shit, I might want to turn this down because he's in the next room and I don't want him to think I'm a mark. So I'm like turning it down so he doesn't hear me listening to his interview.
Can you teach me how not to be a mark?
No, because uh, I'm still one. I'm a huge one. I'm probably the biggest that there is. So
I feel
you hear these people telling you not to be one, but dude, there's better businesses to be in than wrestling. If you're in it just for the money, like I always say all the time, if I was in it just for the money, I'd go pick flowers on the side of the road and sell them for $1 a piece.
oh yeah,
I do this because I love it. And it's good if you can make a little bit, but if I got to lose a little bit too, that's fine. I just like putting a product out.
I dig it. I dig it because I've always said since I got into business, I'll always be a mark. That way, I always enjoy it, and I don't want to know the finishes, the matches. Just let me record it, things like that. And then I have guys like Joe Dombrowski tell me, "Don't be a mark. You'll never make money. Don't work a show because your buddy's in the main event or a big worker's in the main event. Make sure you're taken care of." So, how do you draw the line? How do you draw the line to where you're not losing a ton of money, you still have some respect, and you're still having a good time? How do you balance it all?
It's hard. And Joe's, I have a real hard time disagreeing with Joe because we've had him at Conquest probably at least 10 times. And he is the one person that I always seek out after the show
Mm-hmm.
just for feedback. There's tons of great minds there, but Joe is one that I've settled on asking for advice. If you ask everybody for advice, even if two people are right and they're telling you different things, it's just going to muddy your waters up.
Okay.
You know, like I said, two guys can tell you two opposite things and both will have really valid points. But then you're just kind of lost on what direction to go in. And Joe is somebody who that I've really value their opinion and always seek out their opinion on. So it's hard for me to disagree with him. But at the same time, it's just sales and marketing, getting your face out there. If you can afford to go to a show for little money or no money, but you think that you can make a good connection there, or if you think that it'll help you get seen there, go.
Right.
Go. Like I can remember when and I know Ian Rotten is really, looked down on now, but they used to do those paid tryout shows or whatever. And it was like $20 to try out or something. And it's like, and everybody's like, you should never work for free. I'm like, $20. Like, what would your payoff have been? 20 or $30? Instead of making 20 or 30, you spend 20. It's a $50 swing to be on one of the biggest, or maybe not the biggest, but one of the best shows. Everybody always kept an eye on Mid South.
Right.
You could
Yeah.
get other bookings from it. You can make connections from it. You could find a guy to jump in the car with. You could work with somebody who's better than you that's going to make you better. I don't. If you can afford it and if you're able, I think you should get your face and get your work in front of as many people as possible, even if it's not free.
Yeah. And I can see that too. Yeah. So the waters remain muddy. I appreciate your feedback nonetheless.
Yeah. And,
But
I know what they're saying. It kind of drives down. It kind of, if a promoter can just book a bunch of free guys, then he's going to be less willing to pay somebody what they're worth. But at the same time, if a promoter's booking a bunch of free guys, then that show's not one you want to be on anyway. But if you
right.
get an opportunity to do, a good show that can raise your profile, I mean, take it.
Right.
I any wrestler or referee or manager or you should take it.
I dig it.
But that's just me. That's just me, and that's not Conquest always tries to pay well and things like that. But I think there's a lot for getting your name and your face out there, and sometimes you may go in a hole doing that, but if you do it right, it'll come back to you.
You've seen a lot. You've seen a lot. You got any crazy, wild backstage stories or anything that happened during a show that wasn't planned? Fans getting crazy. You got any wild stories for us?
Oh man, my mind immediately went to one place.
Uh oh.
And this might be one of those things. Before we went live, you told me if there's anything that I want to back off of, you could edit it out. This might be one.
Okay,
Um,
fair enough.
but I'll tell you anyway. We had TME, and you've got to look at those guys. You know
Yeah.
what they look like. Um, they were so Duke used to come out with a football helmet on, and he left his helmet on the apron. One of our fans took the helmet and ran out the door,
Oh,
and Duke was incensed, as he should be. He was mad at everybody, and he was mad at me because I let it happen. And I didn't know I was letting it happen, but looking back on it, I did let it happen. We didn't have rails up at the time. Security was pretty thin. We had never had an issue. Um, and Duke was really mad at me to the point where I thought Duke was going to take me out.
oh no.
And but what the fan, so I told you we sell cold beer. The fans' thoughts were they were going to take the helmet, they were going to go to the site of the official after party, post a picture of the helmet, Duke was going to come there to get his helmet, and then they were going to buy him shots and have shots together.
Oh, that's how it was going to play out.
That's how it was going to play out in this guy's mind. That's not how it played out. So we ended up figuring out who it was. They brought it back. Everything was fine. Everything was cool. TME, like, those are my boys now. But that was one of the first times that we had them. And the way they saw it was I was an irresponsible promoter who didn't take care of them. And looking back on it, that was a lesson learned. Ever since then, we've beefed up security, and we have rails around the ring now and things like that. But it was kind of spooky there for a second. I remember one of the guys backstage was like, "Dude, I'll bet you were scared to death." I said, "Well, no, not really." And they're like, "Whatever, Duke would kill you." And I was like, "Yeah, he would, but it would be so fast I probably wouldn't even feel it. And if I lived through it, I wouldn't have to be embarrassed that he beat me up, because look at him. Of course he's going to beat me up."
Right.
So, like, I hadn't, once I got through the soreness, it would have been okay. But everything did work out great. Like I said, those guys are my boys, and they're coming back in March for an opportunity at our tag team championship with SGC, and we've done a ton of good stuff since then. But that, when you talk about rowdy fans and crazy things happening, my mind always goes to that.
We had a similar situation just months ago. I don't know if you're familiar with Brotherly Love out of Pittsburgh.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so they have the cheese whiz can, right?
Mm-hmm.
They spray the whiz in people's mouth. Well, there was a spot coming up where the whiz can was necessary. Maybe even the bad guy manager on the other team was supposed to get the whiz can. Nobody could find the whiz can. The jerks in the front row took it. One of the fans happened to tip us off. And Bake, I'll give you your props. It was Bake that found out, and he punked those fans right there on site. Where's the can? Where's the can? He got the can back. How necessary is security at bigger wrestling shows?
It's huge. We just had such an intimate atmosphere that we were really proud of, as far as, like, there was no separation from the audience and the
Right.
performers. And if you can trust everybody, that's great. It gets everybody a little bit closer, and it lets them, it's a different kind of experience. But you can't trust several hundred people, or, I don't even know if you could trust 50. Your fans are great, but, even our guy, the guy that did that, he meant it well. He was a fan of those guys. He wasn't trying to screw up the show. He wasn't trying to piss anybody off, but, you have to have some sort of protection for everyone, the fans and the performers alike. Security is a must, because if something does happen, and nine times out of 10 at an indie show, or maybe 99 times out of 100 even, everything's going to be fine. But you need to be ready and equipped for if something does happen.
Right. Yeah, and I get where you're coming from, talking about the intimate setting right there with the fans. I understand it. So yeah, man. And I was just telling Tim earlier this week, the more popular a promotion gets, the more people come in. It's just statistics. You're going to have a bad apple or two if you're bringing more people in. It's just going to happen.
Right. Yep.
I don't know. I don't know.
Prepare for the worst, expect the best, I guess.
No doubt. No doubt. Well, let's
But
compare and
that was
con. Go ahead. What was you saying?
oh, I was just still ranting. That was just another opportunity, that was just something else that we used as a learning opportunity.
Well, you said,
Yeah.
prepare for the worst, expect the best. Compare and contrast for me. You've been through a lot, been doing it for a minute. Give me an example of the worst. Give me an example of the best so far.
Well, the hardest pill to swallow is when you don't do well. Um, when you've got a show that is going to hit, and for whatever reason, the people just don't buy it. And I don't mean the people in attendance. We've been lucky that every show we've had, the people in attendance have, given us great reviews. But, when you book big and you go hard, and then the attendance doesn't reflect that, that has been hard pills for us to swallow when that's happened in the past. Sometimes it feels like you may be selling something that people don't want to buy.
Right.
And that can be hard to take. And it has been hard to take when that's happened. Our lowest attended show was immediately following our highest attended show.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. And that was just talk about letting the wind out of the sails. that was a tough one to take. That one, we didn't come back for several months after that. I got pretty down on myself and got down on wrestling. Not that I stopped being a fan, but I just thought, not everybody's like me. Not everybody cares, and maybe I'm selling something that people don't want to buy. So that can be, that can be a blow when that happens.
For sure. For sure. I understand that definitely. Well, what about some of the highlights, some of the good moments that you're proud of?
We've had a ton of really good ones. One thing, maybe the most fun I've had at a show was we were telling a story with Cole Carter and Jock that probably went out a year, and we put so much work into it, and everything was going so great. And we built it perfectly, and 2 days before the event, Cole got signed to WWE,
Mm.
and we thought that he'd still be able to do the show. And then the day before the show, he got pulled.
Mm.
So, what do you do there? And we ended up giving the match to Levi Everett, who already worked earlier in the night. Levi went over on Jock in that one. And when I tell you that everything just went perfect, it was great. We had a surprise. We had a guy that people were behind. He wrestled Jock. He won our belt. I mean, it was just an unbelievable pop. And it wasn't just one pop. Like, it was a pop on the finish. It was a pop on the 3 count. It was a pop when he raised the belt over his head. Like, the people went ballistic for that. And to know that we were in real bad shape and really scared and really worried about what the heck we were going to do less than 24 hours before that. And then to know that we were able to pull it together and keep the show on the road and make it maybe better than it would have been was really, really just a high for us.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. You made it out the other side okay.
Yes, sir.
Hell yeah. Good. I promised you I would keep an eye on the time for you. We're looking at 7 o'clock now, and I know you got to wrap up soon. Before I let you go, I want to give you a chance to plug the socials, plug the show, and at the same time, if there's any time left after that, heck with the audience. Let's worry about Spooky Lou. What advice can you give Spooky Lou and the crew on running a successful independent promotion in the future?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've been talking a lot about social media. We're at Pro Wrestling Conquest on everything. Facebook and Instagram are our big ones. We've been lacking on YouTube, and we look to change that. And we hope that you'll help with that.
Happy to.
So follow us on all of our platforms. Like I said, that's where we can tell you why things matter. That's why we tell you why you should care. And you'll enjoy our events a lot more if you're engaged with our social media. That's what we show our sponsors. We show them our engagement numbers and our following numbers. It helps us more than most people could imagine, just with a simple click of a button on a follow. So please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and we're on Twitter, but we're kind of slow on there too. We look to change that.
Not a whole lot going on over there anyway. I understand.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing good going on, at least.
Yeah.
Well, as far as EIW, we're 2 shows deep. We've had our bumps. We've had our highlights. Got an EIW chant the last show. I'm pretty proud of that. What sort of advice can you give me going forward?
I'm not sure. Everybody's journey is different, and every event is different. You're dealing with a different talent pool. You're dealing with different fans and a different market. But the biggest thing is, one thing that we have lacked, not to put a negative spotlight on us, but is consistency. A big thing is consistency. If you can survive it, you're going to build fans. You're going to build a base. Don't let, like I told you, we've had a couple shows where I just didn't want to come back from it. Don't let that, don't spend too much time focusing on things like that. Press ahead, push forward. Everybody's going to have a bad show, but you never know what the next one is going to be like. And as long as you're putting out a good product, as long as you've got a good locker room, as long as you maintain a good presence in your market, keep pushing.
Hell yeah. I appreciate it more than you know. What sleeper match? March the 8th, Scorched Earth. We talked Jack Vaughn and Casey King. We talked about the tag title match. What's one folks ain't talking about that that's going to surprise them?
I'm excited for all of them. I'm really excited for Shane Mercer and Facade. I don't know how you put those two guys in a ring and they not make fireworks.
Right.
I mean, they both are just so unique, and They told me that they've worked together before, but I've never seen it. I'm not sure
I think it was
where
one
that
of the
was.
GCW backyard shows, I bet you.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure when it was or where it was, but those two guys, I don't think you can put them in a ring. I don't see a way to put them in a ring together and something special not come from that.
Yeah.
And another one that I think is going to kill is Calvin Tankman and Troy Parker.
Yeah.
Troy is already doing incredible stuff, and when I first started booking Troy, he told me that Tankman was a dream match of his.
Okay.
I know Troy is going to bring his best stuff to that one, and he's got some good stuff everywhere he goes. So I just know that Troy is going to be there to show out. You know, a win over Tankman would be huge for him. And Tankman has been electric. We've had him a couple of times, and he's been electric every time he's been there. And Troy, you know, with a win over Tankman, Troy's kind of looking up to him right now. And with a win over him, that raises Troy's real estate big time.
For sure. Calvin Tankman, that's a hell of a roadblock. Good luck, Troy Parker.
Hell of a roadblock. Yep.
But
I know Troy's going to come to play.
Short.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Oh, I said I'll never sell Troy Parker short. If anybody can do it, it'd be him.
No doubt. Yeah, and especially when you think, I don't want to give Conquest too much credit, so I'll just, give it to Tankman, but that's kind of like, that's Troy's Super Bowl. That's a big match for Troy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure how familiar with Troy that Tankman is. Tankman may think he's coming in to work with a local guy and get punched in the mouth and find out real quick what Troy Parker's all about. Troy's coming in to win that one.
Hell yeah. I can't wait. I cannot wait. I won't keep you too much longer. I know you got things to do. You're a busy man. I can't thank you enough. Do you have any final words for the audience before I let you live your life?
No, I don't think so. I've had a really good time talking wrestling with you and talking Conquest with you. We're really excited to have you there in Charleston. We're excited to bring you on as part of our team. Your hard work has been, I don't know you, so I wasn't looking for you. You got in front of me, kind of like we were talking about earlier. You just got to get in front of people. And you got in front of us, and you're doing really good stuff, and you're getting big guests on your shows, and you're posting lots of content on your channel, and your numbers are great. We're super excited to bring you on as part of our team, and it's not just to help you. We think that you're going to help us a great deal. So hopefully this will be a really cool partnership with Conquest and WrestleRoni and Spooky Lou.
Let's do it. Let's do it. If you can't wait, don't wait. Don't wait. It's always better in person. Meet me there, Charleston, West Virginia, March the 8th. Am I right? March the 8th?
March 8th, yes, sir.
Scorched earth. Let's all meet up in Charleston. Let's watch some great independent wrestling. But in the meantime, go out there and live your dreams. Be kind and respectful to one another. Don't mess with a wrestler's girlfriend. We went over that as well. Big guest coming up tomorrow. Can't wait. I'll ask you to hang on the line with me for just one moment, my man. To the listeners, we love you. Big things coming down the pike. We're just now starting. Wait and see. We love you. We'll see you on the next episode. Derek Stowers, I thank you again, my man.
Thank you.